of the Pledge of Allegiance. But we sadly lost a terrific man, a longtime employee with the city of Peabody who worked as a custodian at the West School, the Burke School, Phil Bugler. Phil was a wonderful person. Those who got to know him know what I'm talking about. Very caring person that gave a lot to the Peabody school system and to the city of Peabody. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, and just wanted to send our very best wishes to his family, who I know are grieving, and it was a loss for all of us. And just a man who I got to know personally, and just a very, just a person who brightened your day and really gave everything he had to the school system, and wanted to keep him and his family in everybody's thoughts tonight. So thank you. Thank you. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I wanted to ask Ms. Millman to say a few words for a special dedication today.
Thank you, Mayor. As we recognize Black History Month, it is a time to reflect on the fact that Black history is not a sidebar to the American experience. It is the American experience. It's a story of profound contributions, resilience, and ongoing pursuit of justice that has shaped our nation's identity. As members of the Peabody School Committee, our responsibility is to provide schools where history is taught with honesty and where every student feels they belong. When we look at our district goals, whether we are discussing programs of study updates, student achievement data, or facility improvements, we are choosing the tools to build an equitable future. By celebrating Black History Month, we reaffirm our commitment to a rich tapestry of education, as Maya Angelou famously described it. Our duty is to keep the threads of our curriculum and our school culture reflective of the diverse history and the bright future of every student in Peabody. Let's carry the spirit of this month forward in every policy we write and every vote we take. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it's
Thank you, Ms. Millman. That was great. And also wanted to bring up the fact that Brandy Carpenter's niece, Alex, is representing the United States women's hockey team, and they are crushing it. Had a great win today over Canada. And Alex is an assistant captain and one of their top players, and that's always wonderful to see and having those Peabody connections. So I wanted to mention that as well, as we suffer through another snowstorm, which is coming. But I'm trying not to think of that. All right, so let's go to the agenda. We have minutes from the January 27, 2026 regular school committee meeting. I'd open those up for discussion and a vote. Mrs. Carpenter?
Motion to accept and approve January 27th, 2026 regular school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the motion for approval of the January 27, 2026 regular school committee meeting. The motion was made by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Amico. Any comments or questions? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one correction on page 3 of the minutes. Very top paragraph, it was in a review of the program of studies. It says, about 4 sentences down, an academic leadership aid, it should say academic leadership aid program. So if you could just add the word program.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. We'll add that word in that spot. Ms. Bowe, you have that? So amended. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Ms. Millman.
yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we have 3 warrants for discussion and approval tonight. Turn it over to you, Mr. Olympio.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 6271 dated February 10, 2026 in the amount of $192,655.84, subject to audit.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio for approval of warrant number 6271, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. I'll open that up for any discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote for approval, please.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Ms. Millman.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 6267, the amount of $1,014.28, dated February 10th, 2026, subject to audit.
Second.
Great, thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio for approval of warrant number 6267, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Roll call vote for approval, please.
Mrs. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Ms. Millman,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 6274, dated February 10th, 2026, in the amount of $791,645.12, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio for approval of warrant number 6274, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Ms. Millman,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Abstain.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Olympio. Next, we'll go to item number 3, and if we can we flip-flop item A and B? We have Mr. Titlebaum here from the City Treasurer's Office, and I thought we could go to him if there's no objection. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Titlebaum, please come forward, and Mrs. Carpenter, I'll turn it over to you. You are listed for the SNAP fundraising, and maybe you could provide some comments for us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. We had a lot of questions. We just need to get some money. Any way you can help us raise that money? And in all seriousness, what platforms, have you found anything out? And we'll just kind of take it from there.
Thank you very much for letting me come. So I reached out to multiple other school districts across the state, reached out to some in Connecticut as well, trying to get different venues that they use. Majority of them right now do not let us use fundraising. Part of it's driven by the state laws, how we can regulate money in and out. Others are driven by the fees. SNAP Raise takes 20% of your fee that you get. So a local school district, I reached out to SNAP Raise directly. They sent me an example of a school district locally. I reached out to their business manager who did not know that they were using SNAP Raise. SNAP Raise they sent the money over. They raised, according to online, $18,000. That's before the 20%. That does not include any other fees or anything else that was been taken out. So you as a parent said, hey, we raised $18,000, but in reality, you only really raised $15,000. $15,000 is a great number, but you're still losing that $3,000 that is really that's a bust. That's a lot of money for these programs. Based on what the state guidelines read right now, we cannot have money leave the accounts without either myself approving it directly or the vice principal and principal, whoever's signing that physical check. We have, by the student guidelines, student activities, we have a checking account that you guys have approved, $50,000 in that account that they can write checks out of. And then we have the savings account that all the money gets deposited into. That money, in order to have a credit card processor, we have to have another checking account. By law, we're not allowed to do that. We have to have one checking account that the money goes into. So we can't have two different accounts for the students. If we go through different avenues, for instance, using a PTO or friends of class of 2026, 27, we're able to then use those, have their own tax ID, have their own bank account, have their own everything. And then they will then write a check from their money that they collected and pass it over to the vice principal, who will then process it. In that case, the money doesn't come in until we get the check, whatever is being cut. We're not allowed to use Venmo, we can't use PayPal, we can't use Square, based on how the laws are written as of today. There are other platforms, like we already use My School Bucks. We could have to go down that path, but right now, based on student activities, there's other different laws for student activities versus the normal city and school lunch and all these other programs. Student activities is a whole nother ballgame.
Through the chair. Thank you for all of that information. So if somebody is a friend of, that is the way to get the money into the activity account, correct?
Friends of would be their own entity, their own 501c3. They would have to go through that whole process of creating a 501c3, doing all the paperwork, all the tax filing, all that is outside of the city's control. It's a, you started one for the soccer group, like the boosters, for instance. Those are outside of the city's money. They have their own program, their own bank account, their own everything. They can go do their own fundraising and then say, hey, here's money that we raise for student activities. They can do it that way, but as a city, we are able to raise money through these
So
programs.
if they raise their money, however way they raised it, and then handed over the check, that would work?
If it's through
Through
the
the proper
friends,
friends.
as long as, and they will not be using our tax identification, they can't use our bank account, they can't use any of the city's side of it.
Okay.
Just to add to that, we do have a number of friends groups in the city. Our Council on Aging has a Friends of, our library has a Friends of, and the North Shore Children's Museum have a Friends of. As was being stated by Ross, we cannot have any say over their operation. They have to have their own friends group that make votes, that determine where money goes. The city cannot play any role in how the money's distributed and things. We can collect it for certain specific things that are appointed or voted on by the Friends Group, but city officials, city elected officials, they cannot serve on that board, they cannot be a part of any vote. But our senior center, our library, and the Children's Museum, the Friends Groups have been instrumental in a number of programs, some new initiatives. Even Senior Center has been able to purchase a number of buses to help with transportation, so they play a key role in helping assist, sort of like the Peabody Education Foundation. They make their votes, their own separate board, own separate identity, their own elected board members to make the votes, and but they're a great assist and support system for us.
So to clarify, a school advisor who's also an employee, say of the high school, they can or cannot be the Friends of?
I do not think they can have any role in making any vote to determine where money would go. They cannot be asking for money. As a city official, you cannot ask for money. They couldn't be a part of any fundraising initiative, anything of that nature. So no, it has to be separate, non-city, non-school department employees.
To tap off of that, the ethics, conflict of interest and ethics, so fundraising has 3 prongs: the financial law, municipal financial law, conflict of interest, and then there was a third one. I talked to DOR this morning for 30 minutes on trying to make sure I understood all of this. There's 3 prongs that he talked about, and the ethics he spent 15 minutes on trying to explain that as a person, I can go raise funds for a program outside. If I'm doing, American Cancer Society, I can go do that, and it says nothing connected to the city. Once it has anything to do with the city, the schools, any activity, I can't have my name attached to it. I can't have a vote on where this money goes. It has to be somebody outside of the city raising the funds. As a parent, you can do it as a parent. But if you have any connection to, like if you're working as a principal at the South School and your son's at the high school, still technically you are a part of the employment of Peabody Education. It still has an impact on what you do.
So you mentioned you spoke to other schools, and did you mention Square too, that we weren't able to use that as like a cash app either? We couldn't use Square?
Nope, we're not. It's a lot of the student activities portion. So for the city, we can collect used credit cards. The problem with the credit card is the fee transfer, the interchange fee. We cannot have the money technically going out without approval, like physically approving it from me or technically the principal of the high school for this student activities account. Because every time you do a transfer, a change of like your swipe, there's a charge for that. We technically will lose those fees, and that's automatically getting pulled out, and we're not, by law, we're not allowed to have those money leave the student activities account without approval. So each time I would have to go in and say, approve, approve, approve for each one, which that's not how they're set up anyways right now. Additionally, the back end of a credit card processor to track which, we have, I think, 60 different clubs and booster, different organizations that the high school provides. If you come in and use your card for their prom, and then you go pay for your DECA program, and then go pay for performing arts, you just paid 3 times, but we don't know which way that's gonna go, who's getting paid, what you're paying for, because each card is just gonna go into this one general fund, and then to back-end track who's paid credit cards. Additionally, there's bounced credit cards. More and more people have had fraud on credit cards that I've been tracking down with that issue. Sometimes credit cards are great, and sometimes you don't know what you're charging, because it might come up as Peabody, you might not know what you're paying. So as a parent, you could have that issue as well.
And the same thing with My School Bucks.
It's right now in the like My School Bucks has options to do it, but right now, with how it's built out, the state law does not allow us. It's part of the state is, in one of the chapters I was reading for state law, it talks about having the Quakers have to still meet monthly. So in order for us to get to this new law, they still have to go through and remove, technically speaking, for fundraising, it talks about Quakers meeting monthly. The Quakers aren't meeting monthly right now, from my understanding, but there's a lot of things that are written into the law that we do not have a true updated law. There's been things in the works, but right now we cannot accept credit cards or any of those, like even ACH. We can't really accept those either right now. So it's a majority of checks, cash, but if a friends group does it, it's outside the city, and then they pass the money in, that's still acceptable.
Okay, so a lot of information, thank you. A lot of information that unfortunately isn't that great. Not helpful, no. But I did hear there's a chance, there's a friends group that we need to come up with where none of us work here. Dr. Vidal, do you have any options?
Well, I approve all the fundraisers, including the PTO fundraisers and things like that. So we have not approved online fundraising because we had viewed it previously as canning. So if the committee were willing to accept online payments for non-school accounts, I could approve those, and our PTOs and our boosters could begin that in the pilot phase, eyes wide open if there's, you know, and it's not just Snap Raise. There's Cheddar Up, there's Square, there's a number of those. And if the committee would like to explore that, I can begin to work with our PTOs and things like that and accept those, approve those fundraisers, and then we could get more information. So that could be our entry point in, but we can't allow any for any of the school accounts right now that are run by the city. But if we wanted to approve that, for example, the Welch School, I just got a request for a fundraiser. They're doing a calendar fundraiser, and one of the options they'd like to explore is an online payment called Cheddar Up. And they could do cash, they could do Venmo, they could do Cheddar Up. I haven't signed it yet because I wanted to make sure that the committee was on board. The money wouldn't go through our account. They would raise it, and then the money would come back to us through the appropriate measures. So if the committee is open to that, we can explore allowing the friends groups, the boosters, the PTOs to explore that, and we just have to explain to them what it means. But right now, we can't do it with our local school or city-run accounts.
So you need that in a form of a motion?
Yeah, I would say that would be helpful if we had a motion, and then I would begin to approve it. But maybe some discussion on it, just to make sure that it follows our policy as well.
Sure, I see that there's discussion, and then afterwards, if we want to frame some language, I'm definitely in support of that. And then if you could work with, in particular, the high school students that had come before us, and how we can make sure that they're incorporated into that, I would appreciate it. But I'll yield for now.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Mr. Amico?
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Titlebaum, for being here. My only question, and thank you, Ms. Carpenter, for bringing this up. Would we recommend that the organizations start a 501(c)(3)? Is that our recommendation?
If if they want to be tax exempt, that is probably the path I'm not going to give financial advice or legal, but if they want to be that tax exemption and they want it as a tax write-off, that would be the way to go. Because as a normal group, if I just start collecting funds as Ross and I'm going to pass the money in, it's not a tax write-off for you. it's a tax write-off for me because I'm the one giving it. So if they're doing it for the school, they probably should be a 501c3 because technically, you're making a donation to students, to an organization for the students' benefit. It should probably, that way they get a tax write-off.
Thank you, and I guess that's something that we need to discuss as well. Is that something that we would require that these groups do, or does it not matter to us? I guess I'll leave it at that. But I do support this, and I'd like to see our kids and our students and our parents be able to raise funds for their organizations. I just want to make sure that we're covering ourselves and they're doing it the right way. Thank you.
501c3 process, there is paperwork involved. Somebody has to take that on. Typically, it's through an attorney's office. There is some time required and submittals that have to be made, and there's a little bit of work to it. But a lot of organizations and people, they will not donate unless it's a 501c3 because of the tax write-off and just other protections that the 501c3 affords that that groups that are not organized under 501c3 can't provide. So that's always encouraged. Yeah. Mrs. Dunn.
And this is just a bit of historical perspective on the policy that we have about online fundraising. When that started, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but there was a problem because of the things people were posting on some of those websites that would collect money. It was fundraising for teachers to get equipment in their classrooms, and I can't remember the name. But some of the things that had been posted was so derogatory about our schools that we ended up making a policy that if anyone was going to raise funds online, that it had to be reviewed by the superintendent to make sure that it was appropriate for the programs and for the school. So we do have that policy that does allow online fundraising. However, it does have to go through the superintendent's office. And I'll be honest, it may be something that doesn't exactly fit this situation. So I think it would be good to look at that just to see. Online fundraising is different than making a poster and hanging it up saying, we're going to have a car wash, everybody's invited. When you're putting something online, it's a lot more narrative and photographs and things like that. So just in a few years, it's changed. So I think we should look at that and actually figure out how to do this to help the students, but also to make sure that if there is a friends group and they're raising money in the name of our students, that we have some type of protection for the school and the school district. Because I think if there weren't any protections, you could have, down the road, you could have some problems, not knowing what someone was going to raise money for, trying to make sure that it is approved by the school department and that language would be prominent on any fundraising. I don't know, I think we need to pass this along to, at some point, we will have to get some legal advice on this to make sure we do it appropriately, because it's a minefield. Fundraising is a minefield, and just trying to be able to help the students until the legislature can catch up with current technology. We've got to figure it out.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Any other comments, Mrs. Millman?
I just want to clarify that I'm understanding this. I think we're trying to figure out a way to do this. And the entity has to have its own EIN number, its own tax ID number for exempt purposes, right? So they have to be an established 501c3. And if I understand what you said, because if you are an established 501c3, you have your own board, bylaws, and members of that board, which cannot be a city employee of those. That's my first.
I can be on a board. I just can't, if, for instance, I'm on a board with 10 other people, I can't have a vote on where that money is going. So if you're on a board for, I don't know, for the boosters, let's say, you can't either do this fundraising, you can't vote saying, yes, I'm approving this money going to,
Okay.
the soccer team or the performing arts or whoever.
So then, two follow-ups. If we already have a policy on online fundraising, does that policy that you have to approve, Dr. Vidal, if a connected organization, it wouldn't be one of these 501c3s that's seeking to fundraise for the school?
So we have PTOs that are 501c3s.
Right.
And so I approve fundraisers. And so I know Donors Choose, for example, was a big one that we had used in the past. There's a crowdsourcing MASC policy. I don't believe that we have it. I know we have our own strictly fundraising. So as I looked through it, online fundraising wasn't necessarily in our current policy. So that's why I'm just looking for clarification. If the committee is comfortable with me approving that, we'll approve it consistently across the board for the outside organizations, but we can't approve it yet for the ones with our accounts. So just clarification, so I want to make sure I implement that consistently across all of our groups.
Awesome. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Cox?
Just thinking about like the historic piece that you just shared, thinking about if you're going to be approving the different online platforms, would it be possible to have them have to submit like, this is the PDF of what we are going to be sharing, and that's the only thing that can be shared? So like if they're looking to seek, their fundraising, it's like we have approved or you have approved exactly what is going to be posted. Therefore, we can kind of eliminate all of the, and then we could also try to enforce some sort of policy or create a policy that, states like comments have to be turned off. We're not looking for, making these posts being like something that could they could be shared, but we want the comments to be turned off on these posts in order to ensure that it's remaining, the focus is on the students, and it doesn't get blown out of proportion for whatever purposes.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mrs. Dunn?
Yes, that's how it started, that if someone wanted to do fundraising, they had to give the whole product to the superintendent. This happened with Dr. Levine, and he would be a great resource to talk to because he could tell you how it came about and how he ended up handling it. And it changed a lot of things. It did. But yes, anybody who wanted to post online about fundraising, their entire post had to be approved prior to being put online. The superintendent had to review it.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Titlebaum, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, so one more thing, I know the students, like you brought up car washes, is, they now, the kids are doing different programs. Less people are carrying cash. They're trying to accept other methods. I did talk to a bank in regards to just a credit card processor. The problem with that is it's one terminal that will have to be, you're going to have to go at a car wash on a Saturday morning. You're going to bring a terminal there. They might not have internet. There's a lot of back end. Just a terminal itself, just a plain terminal, costs $650. That would not be included any of the fees that would come along with it. Does include the connection to the internet. So there's a lot more than just a set cost. It's always going to run more. Even like now everyone uses Apple Pay, Zelle, and these different ways of paying. Not many of my friends have cash on them anymore. They all just Venmo each other and someone puts on a credit card. It's, the way we're going. But right now with the laws, it's not letting us even take, Venmo is not set up for business. It's personal. If you are a business, you still use someone's social security number to set up that account. And then you collect on that person's social security number. So all the money, technically speaking, would have to be under my personal social security number, which I'm not really comfortable with doing, because then I'm going to have to give it out to every single person, whoever's collecting. And that's not really where we should be headed, because it's not for the cities, but right now it's, if it goes down that path and they're able to accept business, more than happy to come back and say, hey, we have good news, this is what's happening. But as of right now, we're not in that position to accept credit cards, PayPal, Venmo, or any of these other tap and goes.
All right. Mr. Titlebaum, thank you. You brought a lot of information, important information to us, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
All right. We're going to go back to the regular agenda under continued business with the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School MSBA project update. Mrs. Dunn, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh. Yeah, please.
I just want to clarify, we were kind of talking here a little bit, where we're going to wrap this up. So are we going to be able to move forward to allow the superintendent to accept online donations as long as he is able to review them first? Is that something that we can still make happen?
Ms. Dunn, do you believe the policy allows me to do that now?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll start tomorrow.
I'm not sure, because
If it does, I'll start tomorrow.
So,
I
yeah,
just wanted approval here, just assurance that the policy would cover that. I have to review them anyway.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that if it allows me to do so, I'll start
So
approving them tomorrow.
I believe it does, and you just have to
Great.
review what it says. We'll shut off the comments. Can you reach out to the high school students that came before us?
Yes.
To please let them move forward with what already is a policy?
Yes, they'll just need
They'll need a
partner.
friend.
They'll need a friend.
They're gonna need
They'll
a
need a
friend,
friend.
and if you can explain that,
Yes.
please let them,
Yes.
however they can manage that.
and I don't think they can do it. I don't think you can do it. With what Mr. Titlebaum said, the way the money comes in is what the controlling factor is.
If it's a friends organization,
Oh, if it's friends, okay.
a friends organization, a booster, for instance, I know the Performing Arts, they have soap. They use soap. So that's parent organization, the patrons, they're able to go out, raise these funds, and then say, here's stage one, here's what we collected. Part of that is they can do it. The one thing that you should probably put on that is a cutoff date of this fundraiser ends on February 25th. And that means the money would have to be then turned over on the 26th. That way we know when that money is coming in to say, here's a deadline. Because some fundraisers, the kids will keep things open forever if they could. And then you'll never know when this money's coming in. Oh, we have to go pay for this bus for the prom, or we have to pay for something. The money's not in, but we collected all this money. So we got to make sure that comes in.
Thank you. We all need friends, Mr. Titlebaum. Mrs. Millman, then I'll go back to you, Mrs. Dunn, but we got to wrap this one up.
I just want to make sure that, just thinking an aspect of equity, of not all student groups have a friends group. And when we keep saying friends group, we're talking about separately established 501c3s with an EIN number. And I just want to be very clear that we have to look at that, because somebody might come, well, they raised money because they have to have a friends group, the performing arts group, for example. But, and I'm pulling this out of my hat, I don't know, the robotics, which is maybe 5 kids and a few adults, may not have a 501c3, and we'd have to tell them no. So just to keep in the back of our minds, how do we consider some of those things when they're all trying to use a much more easy platform to raise money?
I know you want to
Thank you.
wrap it up.
No, Mrs. Dunn, then I'll go to
Okay.
Mrs. Carpenter. No, this is important. I want to make sure
I would just like to make a suggestion. I'd like to make sure we run our policy by Mr. Titlebaum and Mr. Rippon, just to see what they think of it, because they know much more than we do about how the money has to be handled. And if there is a problem with the way that the policy is written, or it might be missing certain factors now, I think we need to do that before approving any of the online fundraising, until we do have a bit more input from people who deal with collecting all that money and parceling it out.
I agree with much of what's been said. I think the crux of it is the money has to originate, the fundraising has to originate from an entity that isn't the city of Peabody. And we're a department within the city of Peabody. We use the city of Peabody tax identification number. And I think to Pamela's point, for some groups, they already have that relationship, and some they don't. It seems like there's no way around it. At least for now, I think Ross did a nice job of explaining. It is what it is, unfortunately. Hopefully, those organizations that want to find this easier path to raise money can find some civic organization that is outside, that they can partner with. I guess that's the challenge here.
Thank you, Mr. Rippin. Mr. Titlebaum?
I know the elementary schools all have their own PTOs. Is there one at the high school in general, like a general PTO that we know of for the high school? Because I know that each elementary school does, so if the elementary schools wanted to do it, they could go through their PTOs.
I believe they do. There's a number of booster clubs as well, just because there's so many clubs and activities. But we can work with them on that.
Thank you. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for your input and for all of your information. What sounds like an extremely simple thing has turned into a nightmare. But with that being said, I'm confident that our students and their friends will have friends of that can organize. And for those that don't currently, I don't want to hold back those that do. I'm pretty sure they all have a PTO. All of the background things that need to be worked out, I feel confident that our superintendent can handle that, and I don't want to hold them back any further. So just to clarify this and to hopefully get it moving, I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent to approve online fundraising for Friends of Organizations.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mrs. Cox. Open it up for discussion, comments, questions. Mr. Olympio.
So are we taking the position that these friends of organizations, if they're not 501c3, if there's a group, I would say, would we encourage the groups that aren't 501c3s? Should we encourage them to go through the PTOs, which I'm pretty sure most of the PTOs are 501c3s? So that'll kind of address the equity issue, that if you have a group of kids that don't have the means, or an organization that doesn't have the means to set up a 501c3 and maintain it, because it is a process. I mean, it's not cheap. It's not a couple $100. So if you have a group of students that are trying to raise money for something, hopefully they can work with that particular school's PTO or booster club to kind of run it through that. So I think that would address the equity portion.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Dunn, did you have a comment?
Just that I'm not sure if there is still a PTSO at the high school.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Millman?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Great, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Titlebaum. All right, so we'll go back to the agenda. Turn it over to you, Mrs. Dunn, for an update on the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School MSBA project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've taken a big step forward in the project and in the process. We received 5 applicants on our RFS for the owner's project management companies. Out of those 5, they were very heavily vetted, and 3, excuse me, I'm sorry, 3 made it to the final cut, and then the selection working group made a recommendation of 1 candidate, 1 company. Right now, we're in negotiations with them, with the city, to become the owner's project manager on the high school project. That, that contract and that decision will go before the MSBA selection board. We have to bring that forward on March 9th. And at that time, we will know whether we can move forward with that company. The people who applied were all very talented, very, very qualified. They had to meet rigorous requirements. And the company that was chosen was actually very, very good. And we're not allowed to say anything yet because the negotiations are ongoing. Once that process takes place and we have an OPM on board, we will move forward and do the same process to bring the design team, which is the architectural firm. We'll do that. We'll put out an RFS with our qualifications and requirements, advertise, get applicants, and then go through the same process of interviewing. And actually, we also had to make reference calls on every one of the people who had made the final cut. So it's a lengthy process. It was really intense over just, a couple of weeks, really, by the time everything came in. And now we have to wait just a little bit longer. We will be having a school building committee meeting the 25th of February. It'll be at 3 o'clock at the high school. And notices on that will go out. It's always open to the public if people want to attend. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free. I'm happy to answer them. I can tell people that now, once an OPM is on board, there will be a lot more activity as far as specific subcommittees with special interests of, dealing with the various features in the school and working on the different parts of the high school. And that's going to be a really enjoyable process. So if there's anything, I'd be happy to answer, but Mr. Mayor, if you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. No, that was well presented. I was very encouraged by the quality of the applicants. They were all entities that have done major school projects across Massachusetts, projects that we're all familiar with, that we know of. I was hoping that we'd have a number of companies interested, and thankfully it played out that way. And I wanted to thank you, the team that did the interviews. It was a high-quality team on our end, led by you as the chair, Brooke Randall, our high school principal, Dan Doucette, our purchasing agent, myself, Sam Rippin, our business manager, Jim Politano, our facilities director. Matt Genzali is a resident, father, and runs a construction company. It was good to get his input. Stephanie Peach from our city council, Dave Gamache from our city council, and Mike Gingras, our finance director, as well as Dr. Vidala. So it was a good group, and I felt very encouraged. They were not an easy decision, which is what we want. So yeah, hopefully things work out. We get our OPM on board, and then the next step is our architect design team, and that's another major step when things will start getting even more interesting and fun as we look at possibilities. It was during the presentations, one of the companies in particular really kind of broke down their vision, like on a preliminary way, but it was interesting to see what their thoughts as to what we could do over at the site. So really got my mind working. I think all of us, our minds working as to what can take place here, but it's still a lot ahead of us. But it was very encouraging, this step anyway. So happy to answer any questions. And what did you say? That was February 25th at 3 p.m.? Okay.
Wednesday. Excuse me.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Dunn. All right. Superintendent's report. Dr. Vidala, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first item on the superintendent's report is the school calendar. Let's see. Let me try this one again. Okay. So school calendar for next year. Here we go. So in your packet, 2026-16 is a communication with a draft calendar for next year. The school committee has the authority to set the school calendar every year, provided that it follows the contractual provisions that we negotiated with Unit A. As you recall, last year we had entered into an agreement, or 2 years ago, we entered into an agreement where we spread our professional development days throughout the school year. It's been very helpful. Unfortunately, next year is the one unique year where there is an election prior to Labor Day. So we have a professional development in the collective bargaining agreement on the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is going to be typically a local election. But every 7 years, when September 1st falls on a Tuesday, there's a local election prior to Labor Day. So that would, by the letter of the contract, have the first day of school be on an election day before Labor. Speaking of nightmares. Thank you. Okay, so I did work with the union on this draft, and they have agreed to do 2 days of professional development up front, and then have school for 2 days the first week of September. So grades 1 through 12 would start Wednesday, September 2nd, and have school on September 3rd. Then we would have our long weekend, and then we would report back, and students would have school on the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is September 8th. Pre-K and kindergarten would then start on September 9th, so we do our screenings, and then we would start up. This would allow us to get out of school. It gives us an extra day of school and allows the students to be released from school 1 day early. So that last day of school would be June 22nd. Our 5 professional development days would be on the 31st, September 1st, and then we'd have Election Day. We'd have the Friday before Martin Luther King weekend, and we'd have the long weekend in March. So I'm not looking for a vote today, but I wanted to give this as sort of a first draft FYI to take a look at. The teachers union is on board with this. They would also be willing to meet to discuss other creative things if the committee would do that, such as possibly having the teachers report for PD a week early and having more school days that week before Labor Day. So they're open to discussions. This is just a first draft, and we can reconvene a team. But I wanted to get it out as soon as possible to let you know what we were thinking about, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Mr. Amico?
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. And Marge Marcarelli has seen this, right? She's gone through this.
Yes.
No, I think it's fine. My only concern is I'm just looking out here and looking at June 24th and 25th. If you get 2 snow days, you're into the last week of June, and that can be an issue for many families, camps, Peabody Rec. So I'd love to see if we could move that up, but if the union is okay with this, I just worry if we get 2 snow days next year, you're into the last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And the union's okay with this, but they're also okay with trying to find some other creative ways that could possibly add a couple of school days earlier in the year, and then possibly get out on Friday the 18th, if we could try that. So we're definitely open to it, and that's why I wanted to bring it here and say we're in discussions, and the union has been very collaborative.
And as we know, through the chair, there are positives and negatives of starting before and after, and I've done both on my end. It's hard going to school on that June 28th, 29th, and 30th if you have to. I just want to throw it out there, but I'll do whatever comes up. I'm fine with either way.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Ms. Millman?
So this is very out of the box. One of the things I'm curious to, and maybe it's not for this year or this calendar you're sharing year, but moving forward, of maybe being the first, although I don't think we would be, of looking at these dates very carefully, taking into consideration lots of things these days, such as those snow days, as you were saying, and where that brings us, really when a lot of camps do begin, of some consideration to, hold your breath, removing our February break and April break and doing a March week break and various long weekends in other places. Certainly plane tickets would be cheaper in March. And thinking about different ways to do that to coincide with what happens at the end of the school year and a different way to look at it. we could be the catalyst to great change in the Commonwealth, but I do think there are a lot of schools that are trying to look at this, given also what happens with the snow days, what happens with various holidays that people are concerned about keeping, whether they be religious holidays and whatnot. So maybe to, whether it's this, and speaking to the union as well, of something towards that. Might be too late, people may have their February break next year ready to go, but having some consideration about that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Millman. Any other thoughts or comments at this time on the schedule? All right, so we'll hold that.
Excellent, thank you. So if I could turn your attention to the next piece of communication in your packet, it's 2026-17, and it is a quarterly report from Mr. Rippon, and I will turn it over to him to just provide an overview of where we were at the end of quarter 2 for this year's current budget. Mr. Rippon?
Thank you very much. What you have before you, and I have on my screen, in order is a narrative, which I'll read into the record with some maybe commentary, a summary page by cost center with the schools first, and then the non-school cost centers, and then a dozen or so pages, give or take, of line by line. And this is, for the newer members to walk through it. It's totaled and sorted by cost center. So if you see in the second page where it says Brown Elementary, original budget, a revised budget, which the original, there have been no adjustments so far, so it's revised as original. What's been expended, that means bill has come in, we've paid it. What is encumbered, we've issued a purchase order, and we haven't finally either received the goods and the invoice. That's when we pay it. And then what's left is the balance available, and then on the summary it speaks to the percent spent. But again, the detail is line by line that backs it up. So now going to the summary, I'll give an overall statement, then I'll get it. The good news is it's tracking as expected, as I expected. The bad news is it's tracking as I expected, and I'll get into that. It could be worse. I feel we're okay. So I'm writing, please accept this memo as my executive summary of the Peabody Public Schools fiscal 26 district budget results as of December 31st, 2025. As you can see from the report, we've expended $35,687,759, and we've encumbered $27,855,014 against the $99,050,552 appropriated budget. The money we spent, the $35,687,759, represents 36.03% of the $99 million. We're halfway through the year, and we're 36% spent. Ideally, you'd say, oh, we're going to have tons of money left. No, but I'll explain why. We're on track, and the reason we're on track is most of our budget is payroll, and most of the payroll is teacher payroll. We pay on 26 cycles, 5 of which are in the summer months. 9 of those 26 payrolls have posted by December, which is roughly 35% of the cycles. And we're 36% spent. That's why we're on track. Okay. Taking into account, well, that's what I just said. There are 2 areas that I will call areas of risk, areas of concern, something to watch, and here they are. One is health insurance, and that's quite a topic these days in the country, also in Peabody. We had budgeted $13 million, $13,028,907 to be exact. As you can see on the detail, no expenses hit, but right after I put this report together, I got the first 2 quarter bills from Mike Gingras, and those 2 bills call it $7.5 million. Multiply that by 2, you're at 15. 15 is more than 13. I wouldn't panic. There's offsets, and I speak to that. Last year, we had extra resources from the state that allowed us to offset more. We don't have that this year. Again, I'm expecting the number I had here projected as a shortfall. I stand by it right now at around $600,000. I wish it were zero. But again, I think we're going to have to look at where we might have budget savings in other areas and maybe look at opportunities if we have in certain revolving funds. Although some are taken into account as offsets, already built in this budget. The second area has to do with wage increases. At the time this budget was built, no contracts were settled. We had left, that number went up and down. We reduced some staff to balance this year's budget. We left approximately $1,800,000. We have settled Unit A, Unit B, crossing guards, AFSCME, supervisors in general were settled. It's just those changes in salary have not been put into, they're happening at the end of this month and into next month. We're negotiating with Unit C, paraprofessionals. We did that earlier today. It is expected, you know, we have to wait, but my sense is that $1.8 million may not be sufficient. I'll know much better as we get through the next few months, but I guess that's an area of concern. I'm happy to discuss this further, but I think I'll stop right here.
Thank you, Mr. Rippin. Any comments or questions? I will say I was in a conference earlier today, and we're expecting to get our health insurance number, the percentage increase, which I am concerned about. We should be getting that next week, and that'll play a big role, obviously, in our discussions as we get into the budget, but we should be getting our number next week. We'll see where we land. It's snowing out. I'm grumpy. Sam gave a great report. Mrs. Dunn, what do you have for us?
Well, I will be honest, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. Sam did give a great report, and that's really what I wanted to comment on. I appreciate the report you give, and I want to say how accurate you are and how honest you are on giving us absolutely where the risks are, and you're always right on point. I'm thinking back to last year. You had warned us of risks, and it was exactly what you said. So thank you. I know you're keeping a sharp eye on all of this and will help work it through. But I believe everything you say tonight is accurately reflected in the numbers. So thank you again for a good report.
Yep. Well said, Mrs. Dunn. Any other comments, Mrs. Cox? Mrs. Cox?
Thank you, and through the chair, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to explain. I really appreciate for the new members, you taking the time to explain really what we're looking at here. So from a new member looking at all of this and taking it all in, I really appreciate that time taken today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Rippin. Turn it back to you, Dr. Vidala.
All right, so the next item, another great, exciting, hopeful agenda item. So now we're on to the budget, and so this is our next step. In your packet, 2026-18 is the first draft of the budget book. You know, and as we go through, there's some formatting things, and there's some things that we'll update. But this is a very similar first slide to last year. This is to the last budget that the last month's presentation that we did. So draft one of the budget takes last year's budget, 2025-26, and it moves all the salaries up in accordance with our collective bargaining agreements, and then it right-sizes some areas that Mr. Rippon just reported on. And so when we look at last year's budget, this current year, fiscal '26, it's that $99 million budget. And as we stated last year, at the last meeting, this current budget, and you'll see on the front page, $104,979,890, which is about a 5.9 million or 5.99% increase. And so, since the last meeting, we did get our Chapter 70 money. I'm a little disappointed, and there was certainly some advocacy that we'll be doing. The mayor's group is doing it. Mrs. Dunn and MASC are currently doing some advocacy, and we're doing it with the Superintendent's Association. So what we have circled is our Chapter 70 aid. That's the money that comes from the state. Last year was $38.1 million, and this year we're at $38.55. And that's a $430,000 increase. And so the reason for us, this is a small increase. It's only 1.13%. We are now a minimum aid district, which is very unfortunate for us. You'll notice one of the small changes here is a change in enrollment. Across the Commonwealth, they're down 15,000 students. In Peabody, we were down 104, mostly at the secondary level. And that's not uncommon. We'll talk a little bit about that as we progress, why we're seeing a little decrease in enrollment. However, with the inflation rate not being fully funded, we're looking at being a minimum aid district for the first time. So that means we're going to get $75 per student. So our 5,746 students times $75 gets us our $430,000 increase. And then the rest of the minimum net school spending, this $2.2 million, is all on the city. And the taxpayer. So that is a bit of a challenge, as it always is. So we're doing our advocacy. One of the big things that we'll be pushing for is to increase the minimum aid to at least $150 per student, which would double our Chapter 70 money. So we would go from $430,000 to $860,000, which is a really big number for us, and it certainly helps, with the taxpayers. Now, I don't know if that increase would change this minimum net school spending requirement of $101 million, but it might ease the tax burden on the municipality. And so we'll talk about what that means as we get closer. But right now, we're operating with the minimum net school spending number of 101, which is a $2.6 million increase from last year's minimum net school spending. So again, it's a very modest increase compared to what level service would be at almost 6%. So here, this is just a little way to show it side by side. So last year we had $38.1 million in Chapter 70. There was a required contribution of $60 million and an additional contribution from the city of $450,000. So that got us to the voted budget of $99 million. And I will say that that was a very generous increase that came at the end, and it was unexpected. So that was built into last year's budget. As we come over here to the right side of the screen, we see that Chapter 70 at the $38.55 million, our required contribution at $62 million. So the required net school spending is $101 million. As I stated, our first draft is a little over 104, almost 105 million. So the current disconnect is 3.7 million. There's a lot to be done here. We're not looking at a complete overhaul just yet, but this is where we are, line in the sand. And so what I will say on this, and this is the last slide before we open up for some discussion, is with this current disconnect of 3.7, there's a lot of potential reductions that we'll talk about, and the first things that we'll always talk about is what are some non-salary items, and we'll be creative. I'm talking to principals now. What are some non-salary items or unfilled positions that we can identify first? What are some cost savings through retirements and attrition that we can look at to get the 104 number down as much as possible before we start looking at other reductions? Including some of the advocacy that I mentioned before, increasing minimum aid. We're going to ask for $300 per pupil, which should be 3 times the amount of Chapter 70 funds that we have. and hope to settle on 150, but I don't want to give everything away just yet in a public meeting.
I know, you give it away. Don't give
But,
away your
you know, we will be asking for a significant increase in Chapter 70, just to help the municipality. Another thing I'm calling UGA 351, I've coined this phrase. There are 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts, and we're looking for all of them to get an increase in UGA money. That's unrestricted government aid, and that money hasn't changed in 15 years. And so, you know, the city's receiving money, and if the city receives additional money, that goes to the overall city budget, which we're a piece of. So we haven't advocated for that as an organization before, but we are starting to lead that because we really are partners with the cities, and that's where our funding comes from. And I think that this is an area where, you know, we could really see a big increase. And then the next step, of course, is scheduling time with our principals and directors to come before the committee to discuss the individual budgets and their needs. So this is what we're calling draft 1 of the budget, and we'll continue to adjust and update this subsequently to get this number down a little bit closer to where we think is manageable. Ultimately, you know, once we reach that final number of what we think, I think line in the sand right now, we're looking at 101 million and some change. And so, you know, I don't necessarily know where the advocacy is going to end up and what the final number with the city is just yet. But I think that's a good starting point for us to get as close as we can. And then as we do, you know, we'll talk to the mayor after we get the health insurance number and things like that as we get into the spring, and we'll have a better idea. So. With that, I'll pause, answer any questions about next steps, or if Mayor, if you wanted to provide any other context.
Great, thank you, Dr. Vidala. Yeah, any comments or questions at this time? Mr. Miko?
Quickly, through the chair, Mayor or Dr. Vidala, so this isn't our final number, just for our population, just for everyone out there. So this is going to go back to the Senate, I believe, and then the House, and then back to the governor's office, I believe.
Yes, so they'll go through their whole process. So we just have the governor's budget first, and then it does go through the Senate, it goes through the House, and then they have conference committee together, and then it finally goes to the governor for signature.
Thank you.
And that's just been, that's been a source of frustration. Again, at the conference I was at this morning, the governor comes out with her number by January 28th. She met that number and that time frame. The House will not be taking this up until April, and the Senate will not be taking this up till May. And then there'll be, you know, some coming together and hopefully have a final number. But it puts cities and towns in a very difficult position, which has been a source of frustration for me, and then that moves over to all of you and then to the city council, because we're trying to get the very best number we can, and it makes it very difficult. So obviously we cannot wait till April and May before we start meeting. We're going to have to start doing that next month, or maybe even later this month. But it is a source of frustration, because right now we're kind of going with numbers that could be far different from what we'll see once we get into the spring. So that's been a source of frustration, but it's something that we have to deal with year by year. So the big one is next week. We'll find out the health insurance number, see where that lands, and then that will probably dictate a number of things moving forward. So any other comments or questions, Mrs. Dunn?
I want to thank Dr. Vidala and Sam and the staff for getting this to us so early. It's 2 weeks before it was due under our policy, which would have been February 27th. So I appreciate it. I really do, because it gives us time to be able to absorb some of this. Even though we know the numbers are going to change, at least we have something to start working with, and then be able to understand where things are going to go down or up. And I just really appreciate it. Thank you. You beat everybody.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Ms. Millman?
These are maybe just points of clarification, if I may. When you shared that for the first time we're a minimum aid district, and that was the 1.13, so this is my first question. What was that catalyst of change? What made that change? Was it numbers of pupils?
That's a big piece of it, yes.
That's a big piece of it. The other piece is that the Student Opportunity Act is coming down towards an end. Now, 270 districts. This represents 85% of the districts in Massachusetts are now minimum aid, which the number has been growing every year. This is the highest it's ever been. So, several years ago, Beverly got a bunch of money, and then they got minimum aid 2 years ago. And now it's happening to Peabody. There was several years ago. There was one year we got $7.5 million in Chapter 70, and now we're getting $430,000. So it's just not sustainable. And so I think that the formula is broken. We're talking about some more advocacy in this, but it's to be a minimum aid district, and we have over 50% free and reduced lunch. It is shocking to me. It's the first time that we are a minimum aid district, so we'll be doing a lot of advocacy in this area.
Thank you. That's the first question. I appreciate that clarity for me. The other was the $75 per pupil, which hopefully will be $300. What was it in previous years?
So I believe they started at 60 last year and it ended up at 104. I think that's how they went last year.
So we were 104 at the end?
No, we were not a minimum aid district last year, so we got, if we went, we'd have to go back another year. But we got over $1 million last year, and so now we're at 430. So if we went back to FY '25, and I can get those numbers for you, but if we went back to FY '25, say we were at, 37, and then we got 38.1, but now we're at 38.5. So that $430,000 to me it's a third of what we got last year.
And that's based on the 75 per student?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then before, we had different multipliers because of our ELL population and our low-income population, and so we were considered what was called an SOA district, the Student Opportunity Act district, and we had more money than that. Now, only 15% of the districts are receiving more than minimum aid. The other 270 or 85% are just getting 75 per pupil.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Dr. Vidala on this item? All right.
All right, and then, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then the last piece we have, a little bit more joy. Let's actually bring some real joy here. Our high school students that are doing DECA have an opportunity to go on a field trip to the Boston Seaport. So you'll notice in your packet there is a request for an overnight field trip to Boston for our seniors that are involved in DECA. Wonderful opportunity to go in and do their, I think it's April, no, I'm sorry, it's March 12th to the 14th, and they'll be doing their DECA competition at the Boston Seaport, and we have our seniors going. It's a wonderful opportunity, and our kids are very talented, and they do very well, and they're super competitive. So you'll see this in your packet, and we have a request for approval of this field trip.
Great, thank you, Dr. Vidala. Let's open that up. Mrs. Dunn?
I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent and to approve this field trip. So moved.
Okay. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn for approval of the field trip, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Open that up for any comment. Mrs. Dunn on the motion?
Yes, it's one thing I noticed when we got the request. I didn't know which group was going. Can we add something to the form so we know, is it, DECA?
Typically, they write the organization,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, because I first time looked at it, I said, what is this? And it said, oh, wait, this is DECA. And I recognized the advisor. So that's why I 100% say, this is our DECA trip.
Okay.
And so the kids qualified at the districts, and now they're able to go. So everybody that qualified is able to attend.
Yeah, and it's thrilling. I'm really happy for them. It's really a lot of hard work to get there. But if we can put something on our form that just says, I don't know, whatever you want to do in the corner, it's because I couldn't figure it out. I knew it was something good, but thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of important for us to know. Ms. Millman?
I appreciate that. I was going to ask the same thing. I wrote DECA on my notes with a question mark, figuring out by the description of it. I think the form definitely needs some revisiting, and I didn't know if it was, is it only 5 students, 5 seniors? Is that what this is?
Yes, there are 5 seniors, yep.
And
they qualified.
Is this something that, and maybe it's again our form, or maybe I'm wrong in asking, that should indicate the cost or where cost is covered, whether it's covered by organization donations, student individuals, or anything like that, So maybe it's just about revisiting our form.
Yep, absolutely. So this is not a request for funds, it's just request for approval to do the trip.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, no further questions. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Ms. Millman.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and that concludes superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. We'll go to public participation. Is there anyone today here at our meeting that would like to come forward and speak? Want to give you that opportunity. Okay, seeing no one. Dr. Vidala, anybody that is joining us remotely?
Oh, seeing none.
Okay. Next, we'll go to written communications. We do have 2 written communications to be received. The first one is the monthly student attendance report, and then the second one is the monthly Bay State textiles report. I'd open those up, those written communications, for any questions and hopefully a vote to receive. Anybody on this item? Mrs. Dunn?
I'll make a motion to receive the 2 documents.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn to receive the 2 written communications, seconded by Mr. Amico. All in favor of receipt of those? That's a unanimous vote.
Now I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Dunn.
Mr. Mayor, can you get us some information, what the tipping fee is on the trash? I know with Bay State Textiles, this whole program was designed to save the planet. The money comes back to the PTOs, which is a wonderful thing. But I also would be interested to see how much money the city has saved by taking those textiles out of the trash stream. And can that be done by the weight?
That's a good question. Let me see if I can find that out.
Curious. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Mrs. Carpenter?
And just to clarify, the money goes to the PTOs, and Peabody High is listed on here, so there must be a PTO at Peabody High that's collecting the money, correct?
No, last year, we determined because there wasn't a PTO,
Oh, okay.
it goes to the senior class? Yeah.
It goes to the senior class.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're getting some funds.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, thanks.
Good. And I believe, Ms. Dunn, you made that motion. I think we can check the tape, but I think that was you who made that motion, so thank you. No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to give her credit.
Motion to check the tape? No?
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Right, because, for a while, I'll be honest, those checks were just sitting. I'm going years back, but it was just sitting in the mailbox at the high school.
Oh, boy.
On your textiles, it's free money, right?
It
Bring
is,
down,
it's a
you're throwing it
great
on us.
program. It really is.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Next, we'll go to subcommittee reports. Let's run through our subcommittees. Education Subcommittee,
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Amico?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Ms. Millman, you did send me an email regarding grading for AP classes, and Ms. Cox, you're on that as well. I forwarded it to Dr. Vidala and Dr. Chase, and why don't we set up a meeting, if we could, through the chair to Dr. Chase and Dr. Vidala, and we'll discuss that. There were so many numbers on there, I didn't want to say anything directly to you, but we can certainly look at that and see where it fits, so, thank you.
Terrific, thank you, Mr. Amico. Finance, Mr. Olympio?
Yes, we had productive talks before this meeting with Unit C, the paras, and look forward to continuing negotiations.
Great, thank you very much. School safety, Mr. Olympio?
Yeah, there was just one issue that was brought up last week regarding the side cameras on the buses, and currently we're going through the purchase process, and sometime in the spring, I believe you'll be meeting with the police department to implement a policy.
Yeah, that's in my hands right now, Mr. Olympio. We have met with different groups, and we're close to making a decision on who we want to partner with. We do have to get some input from the police department in terms of our policy and how the program is going to be run. So hopefully I can maybe have an update for the committee at the next meeting, or if not the next meeting, then the meeting thereafter. But yeah, we're hoping to finalize that very soon.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Athletics and wellness,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Amico?
I'm working with Dr. Vidala to get a way to get us some more information on what's going on at our schools with athletics, wellness, and maybe we can have some situation where we have students report, maybe send us emails or even coaches, and just maybe mix it up a little bit. And maybe, I think we do have do we have a sports journalism class up at the high school? Or do we have a journalism class up there?
We did.
So maybe something along those lines, and maybe have someone report, and who knows, maybe they'll be the next Tony Maserati or whoever. But I think that'd be cool if we could do that. But winter sports are on their way, and they're all doing well from what I hear.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Quality and Standards, Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Quality and Standards Subcommittee met this evening prior to this regular meeting. Excuse me, we began at 6:27, and the topic for this evening's meeting was review of the anti-bullying policy, which we received from the task force. So the members, it was myself, Mrs. Carpenter, and Mr. Olympio. We discussed the bullying policy, we went through it, and looked at that in conjunction with our current policy. And we talked about just a few, basically, not changing any of the language or anything, but being able to make some, I would call them editorial corrections of, breaking some things down with subheadings and that type of thing. We also are going to hold off on making a full approval until we get the anti-bullying procedures. We want to make sure that they both conform with each other. So we will keep that on our agenda and continue to discuss it, and we adjourned at 6:52. One other item that did come up was about the Mass Association of School Committees policy service. For many years, it was very expensive. We had looked at it a while ago, and it was about $25,000 a year. They've changed the rates, and the members, Mrs. Carpenter and Mr. Olympio, have recommended that Dr. Vidala look into participating in that policy service. As an officer at MASC, I would need to recuse myself from that vote, but I can tell you that what it allows is policy review. It would put our policies online, which can be very, very helpful. That was one of the things we've always wanted to do. And this would take care of the project that Mrs. Maccarelli and I have been doing for the past few years of reviewing the policies and getting them uploaded into the computer and being able to make sure that they all conform. We've worked in the past, as you know, having the meetings where the subcommittee gave approval on a specific date, and we've updated some of those. But it's a big project, and having it done online would be very helpful. So, on their recommendation, I'll let Mrs. Carpenter speak because I really am not supposed to say anything further.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, so the subcommittee did recommend that we join that program and put our policies online through MASC, especially given the reduced costs at this time. So do we need to put that to a vote right now, or is that something that you can look into first, Dr. Vidala?
Yeah, I think if we put it to a vote, then we can implement it right away. And so it would just be a vote to direct me or allow me to engage with MASC to put our policies online.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to allow the superintendent to engage in adding our policies to the MASC online website for review and for addition to that.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Olympio. On the motion, Ms. Millman?
I'm glad this came up. This was something that Ms. Cox and I, at the Charting the Course, the onboarding for school committee, did get the little handout that MASC actually provided that is exactly what folks are talking about. And just, it does indicate that the 2-year initial contract, first year is $3,500, and then annual renew of $950, when, which includes lots of things, happy to share. One of the things that we were talking about as part of the district and organizational, this was a piece of it as well that came up, and it was shared with us that the cost has really gone down. It makes it very manageable. One of the hard components of this that we may have to do up front is taking what we have in the format that we have it in, which is somewhat of a PDF, Google Docs, PDF, and has to be provided in a different type of format for it to be done. So it is a bit of a project. And once the vote, if it should pass, there may be some upfront legwork to be done.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? We do have a motion on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Ms. Millman,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Great, that's good. Thank you. Building and grounds, which I think is Mrs. Dunn also. Yeah, I should have done that. Mrs. Dunn stepped out of the room on that item to avoid any appearance of a conflict. Mrs. Dunn, anything to report on building and grounds? Okay. Great, thank you. All right, next subcommittee, district and organizational subcommittee, Mrs. Millman?
Yes, so the committee met for its very first time this week. It was very fruitful. Some of the things that we discussed were to make things greater in accessibility and finding out more that's out there, which, as stated, includes kind of where to put our things, the repository for our policy, make them searchable, makes them easily to find. That's part of the creating of some of the organization and structure. Thanks to the much more tech-savvy computer skills than I have, Ms. Cox has assisted, and we'll be talking to folks in terms of each subcommittee as they stand now. Will also have a file to reach, and then there will be another file, if I may, another file that has the agendas to be posted each time the subcommittee is to meet, and then the follow-up minutes. And there's even a template should people choose to use it, and then therefore meeting open meeting laws and having those particular folders accessible, which eventually to have various links to be accessible to the public of those agendas, and then the meeting minutes thereafter. So that was one piece. Also, we are working towards obtaining the organizational chart that Dr. Vidala has very graciously provided us lots of information and a couple of perhaps templates that we have and we're going to be using. We'll be meeting back and talking about what we have so far. We're going to be using the district's current job descriptions as well, and looking at that and placing these into our org chart, knowing that things kind of morph over time and taking those into consideration when we're looking at that. This will hopefully help in understanding aspects of the budget moving forward with the greater transparency of that org chart and understanding what's out there and putting, again, things in a place that's organized and accessible to us. And one of the requests that we would be looking at and discussing is having each subcommittee be able to provide 3 lines, 5 lines of what that subcommittee is, and what they see their roles to be from each subcommittee, having the chairs provide that. And contrary to what may have been stated before, there actually is no legal requirement for any subcommittee. There are committees required. A wellness committee is required, but it's not required as a subcommittee of the school committee. So everybody has a clear understanding and relies on the same information accurately. And we have committees, and we have these subcommittees, and we again want to make sure that we all understand and it's being able to be shared of what they are, what perhaps the role is, and that eventually go from there to have, again, information out to the public as we look at website organization and have that information there. We are collectively meeting again, I think it was the week after. 24th, February 24th, where we'll be coming back together to look at some other districts of the Commonwealth and maybe even outside of the Commonwealth and what their sites have looked like in subcommittee language, et cetera, as well as organizational charts that are out there to kind of support us and make this a little bit more clear than it has been. So, thank you.
That's excellent, thank you. Okay. Next, we'll go to our liaison positions, Parent and Student Advisory Boards. Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am tentatively scheduling a Parent Advisory Board meeting for Wednesday evening, the 25th. That would be at 7 p.m. here at the Higgins, and the topic will be snow removal. Now, it's pending for a couple of reasons. One, I need to make sure I can have people from Public Works and from our facilities come in and talk to the parents about what happens with snow removal so they can understand it. The other thing is, normally when we have this meeting, we have a huge storm the day after. So I think we're okay right now because it just keeps snowing anyway, but I do want to check and make sure. So it's tentative. It has not gone out yet officially.
What was the date?
The 25th. The 25th.
I have a dentist appointment that night. I don't think I'll be able to be here.
And then as far as the Student Advisory Board, excuse me, when I was at the conference, and I will be talking about the conference in a little while, the Massachusetts Student Board Member Association is reaching out to the Peabody Student Advisory Board to give them further training. You've heard me speak before about the materials that I want to share with our Student Advisory Board. This is an actual organization just like the Mass Association of School Committees. As a matter of fact, MASC supports the Massachusetts chapter of Student Advisory Board members, and they have great training. It follows along pretty much with ours, and it's a really great group, and I will say more on the other presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Okay, City Council and Legislative Delegation, anything to report, Mrs. Carpenter?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Special Education Parent Advisory Council, Ms. Millman, anything to report today?
Yes, we're trying to gather a time that works collaboratively with Dr. Crompton, I believe it, and with the CPAC board to meet and put those regularly on the calendar. They also have an upcoming, and I don't know if it ends up conflicting with other members that would attend the Parent and Student Advisory, but they have an event on also February 25th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. They've partnered with the Danvers CPAC. It's a Let's Get Organized. It should speak for itself. Paperwork inundates everybody in the field of special ed, and it's to assist and support families to get organized with what they have. And so that's up and coming and usually well attended, and I think that partnering with another CPAC is definitely advantageous. And I think that's it.
Thank you. New business. We do have one item under new business tonight. It is the Advocacy Conference, and Mrs. Dunn, I'll turn it over to you for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an additional item before I forget it. Could I bring it up first? It's just a motion to declare these surplus. So moved. Yep, it was Mr. Vico's. He's going, yeah, but it's a good idea. So could we declare the nameplates, the old nameplate surplus? So moved. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that motion.
I know.
You heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Olympio. All in favor of that motion? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I did bring it up now, so I wouldn't forget at the end. Mr. Rico was reminding me. Okay, the Advocacy Conference. In your packet, I did include copies of the position papers from Mass Association of School Committee as well as the National School Board. So you can see the priorities that we spoke about and worked on last weekend. There were 4 days of training, 2 days of leadership, and then 2 days of advocacy training. And then the 5th day the NSBA and MASC members go out to meet with our federal delegation. So the Massachusetts members, we had appointments set up and met with congressmen and senators. People from all of the other states met with their congressmen and senators as well. And when we would go in, and we do this every year, we would go in and meet with the staffers, talk about the priorities for education. And majority is about funding, but there are a lot of different things in here working on equity, trying to make sure that all students are able to be safe and healthy, being able to strengthen our workforce, encourage people to become teachers. What can we do to do that? And those were issues that were discussed at the conference, and it was interesting to hear from other states. There were, I'd say, over 500 people, 37 states were represented there, and excellent presentations. They really were very, very good. We also had the experience of, on our day, going to the meetings, of going into the House Gallery and being present for the vote on funding the government. That was very interesting itself. So those are brought to you just so you can see what people are working on our behalf and what we're doing at the federal level and at the state level. You'll see a lot of the same topics brought up at the Mass Association of School Committee Day on the Hill. I also did bring back materials, as I said, for the student boards, and I was really very honored. They asked me to be a panelist and speak to everyone about student advisory boards. And that was a lot of fun, and I was actually able to tell them, very proudly, that I was on the very first student advisory board in Massachusetts. That's something that meant a lot. But that they needed to know that the president of the National School Board Association is our own Devin Sheehan from the Holyoke School Committee, and Devin was the Mass Association of School Committees president. Devin also served as a student advisory board member. And it's something that really struck a lot of the people at that conference in that seminar, because many of them are trying to get student representation. And there are states where students do not have any capability to speak out at school committee meetings. There are others where the student actually is a voting member of the school committee. So it was interesting to learn all about that. And as I said, I was really honored when they asked me to speak. So it's a great conference, a great experience, and hopefully we're able to make a good difference. We're from Massachusetts, and everybody tells us you're very lucky. We really are, because our representatives understand the need for funding for education. They're down there trying to protect public schools, trying to protect public education through funding and through regulations. And even though it's a very tumultuous time in Washington, there's still a lot of work getting done down there. That was another thing that was interesting to see. Even though the government technically had shut down, we got to go in and speak with all the staffers. They all have to work. They do not get to take time off. So they were very busy working. And at Representative Moulton's office, they are very encouraged about Peabody.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn, for that report, bringing back that information. Any comments or questions on that item? Okay. That concludes the agenda today. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, again at 7 p.m. right here at the Higgins Middle School Library. Items for that agenda, please submit to Dr. Vidala and I for inclusion in the agenda, and I'd open it up for a motion to adjourn. All right. Motion to adjourn, all in favor? That's a vote. Thank you for a productive meeting tonight.
That was good.